Fracking, the high-pressure pumping of water and chemicals deep into the earth to release oil and gas. It's been going on for some time in Taranaki, and now exploration companies have been granted permits which would allow them to carry out fracking in, of all places, Canterbury, even though it's known to cause earthquakes.
In northeastern Ohio, work was suspended this week at 5 wells used to dispose of wastewater from oil and gas drilling. The suspension follows a dozen minor earthquakes in that area since last spring. And
late last year, 2 earthquakes measuring 2.7 and 4 on the Richter scale occurred in Ohio, and scientists believe the likely cause was fracking. Even supporters of the process admit it can cause small earthquakes.
A fracturing treatment will induce large pressure changes underground, and those pressure changes could influence faults. But the key is how far away are the faults from the zones being fractured and what type of rock is underground.
But if we look at Canterbury, we didn't even know those fault lines were there. They destroyed a city.
And that is of concern.
Christchurch City Council is concerned and wants a ban on fracking because it fears the oil and gas companies may use the technique in Canterbury. Obviously the area is prone to earthquakes.
But it's a matter of how close the fracking job is to a fault. And remember, the only incidences of induced seismicity that have been attributed to fracturing are very, very small quakes. We're talking magnitude sort of 2.5 on the Richter scale.
There was a 3.4 in Basel, Switzerland.
And that fracture treatment was shut down.
There's little evidence that fracking has caused earthquakes in Taranaki. GNS looked at 3,300 quakes and concluded that in only one case was there a slim chance that fracking was the cause. It's assurances like those that have the government convinced that fracking is safe, and they are eager to reap the economic benefits. The New Zealand government gets about $3 billion in royalties from oil and gas fields already in production, and they're keen to increase that to $13 billion. And it seems that oil companies are lining up to invest. A recent study asked 500 international companies what are the best destinations to explore for petroleum. New Zealand came in at number 5.
It's our 4th largest export earner, and it has so much more potential to do so much more for New Zealand.
Industry spokesman David Robinson says it's already a big employer.
Right now we generate in excess of 3,500 jobs with people employed directly in the industry, and then there's some calculations to say that there's another 2 or 3 people at least supporting those positions that are directly employed in the industry.
Yeah, it's the same with Patea, you know, when the
Truck driver Simon Speedy says the oil and gas industry is vital to Taranaki.
Well, very important. I mean, it all comes down to even the corner dairy where, you know, jokers are stopping to go to work to buy their, buy their smoko and whatever related to the amount of people involved in it.
So what do you think when you hear people getting upset about the amount of drilling and oil and gas production? What do you say to those people?
I just basically say, well, you've got to remember how much this province relies on the turnover that comes from it, but like I said before, right down to the corner dairy.
Caught in the conflict between the economy and the environment are small regional councils which are left to regulate fracking, often without public input. Most frack jobs in New Zealand have gone ahead without a specific resource consent, because until last August, the Taranaki Regional Council didn't require one. You're comfortable with the way that they've handled things?
Looking back, possibly not, but
the new Plymouth Mayor, Harry Dynhoven, is pro-fracking, but even he thinks it's time for an independent investigation. Would you back an inquiry by the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment into fracking?
I think it would be a useful thing, particularly for the Select Committee actually, to do, maybe in conjunction with the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, mainly because that would help educate the public as well, because there's a lot of hysteria over all of these things.
They're not much given to hysteria on the East Coast, but they do want more answers.
Not every fracked well produces a problem, but there's the issue of what you do with the stuff that comes out. There's the issue of earthquakes that have been linked to the activity. There's the issue of where the fresh water comes from in the first place, the issue of the amount of trucks on the road that's required, in our case into some pretty remote areas.
Remote and often poor areas, protective of their environment and anxious about the arrival of fracking, far from convinced by the oil industry's claim that they have nothing to worry about.
Coming up.